Hi everybody, and welcome to episode 162 of the I Rock Knits podcast. I'm so glad you're here. I have a special show for you today. I am sharing with you 15 winter holiday knits designed by me. I got out a newsletter this week, so I have a special promo code for all of you for these 15 patterns, and I'm going to share those with you because some of them kind of get lost in the shuffle, right? With over 8 million knitters on Ravelry, and we know that not everyone is on Ravelry. You put up a pattern and then it can kind of just go by the wayside. And I have some really cute winter and holiday and Advent themed and warm woolly designs that I just thought I would share with all of you. So we're going to go through them quite quickly today, and hopefully you'll get some inspiration here. We're going to start with the Winter Sunset Cowl. This is design that I did for the Minnesota Knitters Guild. They actually had a contest for a fall retreat and I won. And so I got to use lavender loon yarn, and this was back in the day for the first time. And she had a kit that looked like a winter sunset. I'll put a picture in, but it was just beautiful. And I designed this simple lace cowl so that you could use a literal 5 skein fingering weight mini pack in order to make up this cowl. Now, if you have scraps, that works too. Since it is a lightweight fingering cowl, you could knit it for any of the seasons in any of your favorite colors. It would be beautiful in a gradient. I do have one here that is purples and kind of blues with a dark gray in between. So it works really well with a gradient too, and is easily wearable around your neck. Fun to do. The repeats, you know, you can kind of get them memorized, and it works up quite quickly. So this would still make a great holiday gift for someone, or a birthday gift for a knitting friend, or just one for yourself, because we all like a little bit of selfish knitting, right? Then I designed the Up North Cabin set one winter because I was asked by Lisa Ross to participate in a knit along sock extravaganza in February one year, and all of the proceeds were going to Down Syndrome International. And so I was the last sock person of the, I think there were 15 of us. A new pattern came out every single day. And these were my Up North Cabin socks. And this just has a simple stitch pattern on it. But then I added this little decorative trim around the top and a little tassel along the side, which is certainly optional. But I knit this up using Lucky Tweed. I love this yarn. It is one of my absolute favorite yarns. I have these knit up in multiple colors. So I did it in their beautiful red. I have enough of this yarn to make a sweater in this colorway because I just think it's beautiful. But if you just wanted to get this as a set, the cowl comes free with every pattern. So if you get the hat, you get the cowl. If you get the socks, you get the cowl. If you get the mittens, you get the cowl. I just added it as a bonus. It's just a real simple, straight up and down cowl, but then I embellished it with these little pom-poms and then the trim. And you can do this trim in any color. Because I was making up so many colors of this, in all the different iterations, I of course had multiple colors of the Lucky Tweed, so I just wrapped them together, the red, the blue, the green, the gold, and did it with this kind of gray, wintry, snow kind of color. I don't design a lot in gray for most of you that know. There are also mittens that have the little tassel on them. And I took a picture of these mittens in my neighbor's yard that year on a snowman. I went up to their front door and said, I have a really, really weird request for all of you. And so the mittens are super warm and cozy. I did do the mittens in child size 2 to 4 all the way up to large adult. So I do have the mittens in the small size. So if you have little ones in your life and you need a really fun, cute mitten pattern, I did do that. The sock is written for 3 sizes, and then the hat is written for multiple sizes as well. So I tried to be very size inclusive on that. And then here is the hat. I have the hat in this beautiful gold color, which is actually my favorite one. These were all in I keep everything in storage, all my samples, so my pom-poms are a little unfluffed. But again, I used just the little decorative trim, which you could do on any hat that you have. Just embellish it a little. But this is a really fun set. So you literally have a sock, a hat, a mitten, and a cowl that if you wanted to do a whole set up for someone, you certainly could. And it works up really quickly in kind of this worsted weight gauge. The beauty of the sock, and I want to point this out, is that in this sock pattern, this is the one that I designed 9 different toes for this sock. So if you are learning to make socks, or you haven't done a lot of socks and you haven't found the perfect fit for the toe of your sock, I have 9 different toes in this up north. So I have the asymmetrical, which is what most of our toes look like, right? And so if you want yours to fit, you might want the asymmetrical, but then I have the original, you know, decreases on both sides. I have a longer toe length. And so if you literally have toes that are a little bit longer, you might want a longer, but they angle in. So you always have a lot of extra fabric on your toes. I have the kind of umbrella. So there are 9 different toes in this sock, and you could figure out which one fits you the best. All of these also fit on the top of the mitten. So if you don't like a pointed mitten or you like a more rounded mitten top, you could use this pattern to actually do a different mitten top on the top of all of your mittens. The original pattern is just the decreases on both, you know, edges evenly, but maybe you really would like a more rounded or pointed top. It's all up to you. I know there are a lot of heels out there. People spend a lot of time getting heels, but I did want to share that pattern, and one of my other patterns also has the 9 toes in it. So if you are interested in kind of getting a better fit for your socks, that might be something that you'd like to try. Next is one of my probably most favorite winter knit patterns that I designed, the old-fashioned stocking hat. I just loved my model in these photos. She held up the pom-pom over her nose. I'll have pictures in. It is a long, variegated skein. This one actually just pooled in kind of stripes, and as it got smaller, it kind of striped more and more. And so this is the long version. There is a little bit shorter version. So if you don't quite have enough of a skein to do the long version, I wrote this pattern for worsted and fingering weight. And so you can do it with a pom-pom on the end or a tassel, but you can see how this one is shorter, quite a bit shorter, if I hold them both evenly, than that one. Yeah. So I did do the wide brim in another color, but you could certainly do it in a similar color. And then I also wrote it for fingering weight, which is a lot more knitting. But if you live in a climate that does not get as cold as Minnesota, fingering weight hat is really nice to have, right? And especially if you have a circular sock machine or a Addy turbo sock machine, I think you can knit these up and in a width that is long, and then when you take it off, you could just decrease it down quite quickly, depending on the number of needles you have on your circular sock machine. I don't own one, but I saw a lady who was cranking tubes like this out that were much wider. I think that's a different kind of attachment. I don't know. I love this colorway. She doesn't dye yarn anymore, but I just loved that it was really grinchy, right? Really grinchy. And then I did the pom-pom with 2 colors in it. So it has kind of a center and the outside. So that's old-fashioned stocking hat, written for 2 lengths in 2 weights of yarn. So there are actually about 4 patterns in that particular design. Next, we have the Nicecapades sweater and hat combo. This sweater was actually in the Minnesota 52 book. I did just do a simple snowflake theme, on the top at the yoke, but there are some details in that textured stitch pattern that are supposed to kind of make it look like you've got falling snow on your sweater. So you can see in the hat, if I hold it up real close, that there are little stitches in there that are textured. And then you should be able to see the sequins in those little tiny Angora mohair blend. So there is a lot of sequined yarn out on the market that you can find to hold with this if you want your snowflakes to sparkle. So in the sweater and in the hat, which can be bought as a set separately from this 15 pattern, if you just want the two, or individually, these patterns are all individual, but you can get any of my sets at a discounted price. So when I do multiple things in a set, I always discount the price. Like the Up North cabin set has 4 patterns in it. I would never charge $28 for those 4 patterns. I want to keep the prices fairly reasonable. So you can always go into my sets bundle on Ravelry or go to my sets and collections tab on my website, iRockKnits.com. But the sweater and the hat are so cute together. I have the sweater knit up in a navy and in a black, which I love to wear because it just makes those snowflakes really pop, doesn't it? I have it in multiple iterations. So real fun to knit, quick. This is the hat that I teach in my beginning color work. The next set I have to share is the Churchill Avenue hat and mittens. I wrote this design just to kind of commemorate the street that I grew up in. Sioux Falls, South Dakota was Churchill Avenue, and the mittens and hat represent the Christmas lights. This was a collaboration with Stacy of Mustache Yarns. She does have kits available for this particular set, so you can go over and get the kind of Christmas light themed rainbow speckle yarn and the cream together in a set. But many of you know that all of the streets in Sioux Falls are grouped by neighborhoods and they're decorated together. So they have Lollipop Lane, Reindeer Lane, Santa Claus Lane, and then the church is on Churchill. And my dad was kind of a instigator to get that all started. So there are 4 city blocks of houses that have little square churches with stained glass windows in all of them that are lit up in front. So they play Christmas music outside, and usually between Thanksgiving and Christmas each year, the streets are just filled with people with their windows cracked and children peeking out the windows to look at all the lights in town. So I just love this set. They are actually on display right now at a local yarn store, so I don't have them here to look at, but I will have pictures that you can all see. Then we have the amazing very first pattern I ever wrote and published on Ravelry was the Chim-in-ney hat, and the Chim-in-ney socks came out several years later. This is just a really fun hat that is flat, knitted flat. It literally looks like a square. You bind off with a 3-needle bind off at the top so that it looks like a chimney, and then you add an I-cord edge with some Christmas lights on it. So many people have knit this up for families to take Christmas pictures with. Lots of grandchildren wearing these at the holidays. I did write the sock pattern for both fingering weight and DK, so if you do want to knit them for a gift, you could knit them up a little quicker in the DK weight. This is just a slip stitch pattern, so it really doesn't require a lot of color work. You're just carrying that float up, and the color is only on the leg. Foot, you can do a contrast color toe. I have seen it done up with a lot of dark instead of white, so like a dark black or a dark gray in between for the actual bricks of the chimney. But a really fun set to gift, I think, or to celebrate Santa coming down the chimney at Christmas time with the garland on the chimney. This set also comes in multiple sizes, so it goes way up. So if you have a man in your household or someone with a large head, it does go up into quite large sizes. Then we have the Very Merry Mix-Up Shawl, which is my second Advent collection that I did with the Toad Hollow yarn ladies. This particular one was knit up in a Knit Picks gradient palette because we couldn't use the actual palette from the kit. as it was an advent, so no one gets to see those colorways before they come out. So I did knit it up in a older advent calendar of theirs, and then also in the Knit Picks Gradient mini skein set, and so that did turn out really cute in that kind of red and purple theme. This one has an interesting construction because there are yarn over holes in between the ends and the body of the shawl, and then you can cinch those in to wear it multiple ways, and that little cinched section can sit in your elbows, or you can tie it in the front because you run some I-cord through it. That of course is optional, but if you have any mini skein sets in your household and you want to just coordinate a bunch of colors, you wouldn't have to use a gradient pack. You could use leftovers for this. The ends are knit on the bias, and so they dangle, and you start by knitting a little ruffle so that you've got a ruffle edge along the bottom. So it's a really fun knit to do, quite addictive to go on to the next color stripe, just like in self-striping socks. So I would highly recommend this as an advent pattern for those of you that have advent kits and you don't know what to make out of them. This one would work perfectly. And then lastly, number 15 on the list of all the patterns I'm sharing today is the 12 Days of Knitting mystery knit along that I put out a number of years ago. So it's no longer a mystery. You absolutely know what it's like. But this is a fun cowl or scarf. It can be knit flat or in the round, and it is just a series of lace patterns. Simple lace, very easy lace patterns. So you're moving from one section to the other. You don't have to knit the full number of repeats if you wanted to make this a much shorter cowl. So if you have a mini skein set that is smaller, or you don't want to use up quite as much of each of the colors, and I used two gradient packs from Leading Men Fiber Arts for these. I had it in a turquoise on turquoise, and then we also knit it up in several other color palettes so that people could kind of see what it would look like. So if you wanted to do only half of the cowl, it could go from here, let me see if I can do it, just from here to here, and you would just be doing 6 of the repeats, the full repeats. Or you could make each one of these shorter by half and then do all 12 of the repeats. This one is folded, so it was knit in the round in a tube, and you do not have to connect it at the end. I did Kitchener stitch the two ends together, but you would not have to do that. If you just wanted to leave it as a scarf, you could just do some ribbing and bind off at the end. So I will share just quickly what I am wearing today. This is the Beginner Brioche Slipover by Minimi. She's got some amazing designs, and I love doing brioche. This is a chunky blown yarn. It worked up very quickly. I did cinch in my shoulders just a little bit on either side. I did make it a little cropped. It's not super long, but it was just a simple folded over brim, and I liked it so much that I decided to knit a second one in a vest in a different pattern. This is the vest number 3 spring edition by My Favorite Things. So it does have a ribbed edge around the sleeves. The sleeves are fairly deep. It has the double neckline and then a ribbed longer bottom, but I knit this with super bulky yarn. This is knit up at 3 stitches to the inch. It worked up so quickly. I used Quirky Fiber Works yarn. They are a local Minnesota yarn dyer here in the Twin Cities area. I think she's out of St. Cloud, and she sells yarn at the Anoka fiber yarn store. So I'm just loving a vest right now in the fall, and so I got this one knit up quite quickly. And you start at the back and then work up and over and go down, and then you just work in the round, and with the chunky yarn it just flew off the needles. I think it turned out really cute. I just ordered a dark brown shirt to wear underneath it so that I could wear the turtleneck with a shirt with the vest kind of through the rest of the winter when it gets really bitterly cold here in January in Minnesota. But I did have the blue turtleneck and I thought it turned out kind of cute. So there you go. You have a chance to purchase all 15 of these patterns through the end of December as a subscriber to the podcast. You just go over and go into Ravelry. I will include a link. You do have to put all 15 patterns into your cart, and they're in as sets, so you're not putting in 15. You're going to put in the Up North cabin. That's a collection, so you just have to put one in your cart. But there will be a link that you could copy and paste in the show notes down below that will take you right to the coupon code. And the coupon code is Holiday Knits. And if you put that coupon code, all 15 patterns will jump into your cart from that link, which will make it so much easier for you to purchase. You can get all 15 of these patterns through December 31st, 2024, just by using the code Holiday Knits, kind of as a special thank you for watching this podcast and allowing me to share some of my favorite holiday and winter knitting designs. So well, hello Patreons, and this is your section of this week's podcast. I just have so much stuff on the table to share with you all today, but I'm going to try to keep it short and sweet because it is Thanksgiving weekend and I have so much to do to get ready for this wedding. And the kids are not coming because they got COVID at their bachelorette couples weekend that they went up north for. They really thought they came home with just colds, and then they tested positive for COVID. And we really want them to be well for the wedding, which is just over a week away. And Ross and I are just going to share a little turkey breast for the rest of the weekend. Okay, what have I been knitting on? I started the Hovlander hat. I had leftover yarn from this vest, and I have two great nieces and a nephew, and that Hovlander hat has that interesting top on it. I'll put a picture in here. And so I got this started last night. I was just in the chair and I grabbed a little circular needle. I am knitting this on a size 11. It is pooling. I don't care. And then I'm so excited about this. I cast on the layer cake sweater. I am just ready to divide for the sleeves, so it is all bunched up on the needle. But I saw this pattern on Instagram with these colors and I just needed to knit it. So the whole body is going to be pink, and then the sleeves have this section, 3 colors on one and 3 colors on the other at the bottom. This was so fun to knit. So I'm using knit picks because to buy 6 full skeins of yarn and not use them all up. So I bought 50-gram skeins at Knit Picks of the Wool of the Andes in the worsted weight. And then I bought a couple of skeins of the pink in 100-gram skeins to go with it. And I think it's just lovely. It's just perfect. We are going to the show Wicked tonight. We decided since we're not having a Thanksgiving celebration, we would go to the movies and things. We're not going to have any company. And so I want to knit the pink in the round. So I need to knit a couple more rows right here and divide for the sleeves before we do that, because then I can just knit on the pink in the round at the movie and maybe get a couple of inches done, which would be just lovely. I am getting so much knitting done because I'm not designing right now. And I've just had a few nights and days where I've been home and not had a lot of design or computer work. I did some upgrades on my website, but the kids were gone for their weekend away, and so I just didn't have some wedding stuff to do, and I thought, oh, I'm gonna finish all the whips. And as you know, I have a lot of whips out there. We had knit night, and it was so lovely to have quite a few of you join on Zoom for knit night. You know, Patreons came out. But I am sorry, it did not record, and that's probably on me, but I didn't, for some reason at the end of it, the recording had turned off and we got like the first 30 seconds or minute. And I don't know what happened, so I apologize, because some of you like to watch that after the fact to see what people are knitting. And I will try to remember to double check that that is recorded. Next month, we're doing book club. We're reading The Girl Who Smiled Beads, and that is on December 17th from 5 to 6 o'clock. So if you have time to read a book in the next couple of weeks, spending some just time in the house or whatever, and you want to sit down, this is a really fascinating book, and I think it'll be a really good discussion. I've talked about it twice on the podcast, so I'm not going to talk about it anymore. And then we will have a knit night again in January, although I'm thinking about doing it on a Saturday late morning, just to see how that works for people. Instead of always doing it in the evening. So I right now am teaching on 3 of the 4 Saturdays in January, and I might be doing a class on that 4th Saturday, but my mornings are free a couple of times there. So late morning, I might try to put that, and I'll let you know in the next 2 weeks when that knit night is going to be happening. I posted some tips and tricks videos. I had recorded some videos and just had not had a chance to get them edited and uploaded. So I did a 2-color brioche short little tutorial because when I took a class years ago, I remembered someone saying to me, a real tip that helps me every time. I think 2-color brioche is much easier to do than 1 color. And so I would highly recommend that if you want to do brioche, you do something that has 2 colors in it. Do like a hat or a cowl that has 2 colors, because it's so much more visual to see 2 colors than it is to see 1. And so I just did this little tip or trick that I don't even remember who shared it. It was years ago, and I thought it should be out there in the world for people to see. I did a how to pull your yarn from the center of a skein, which I've shared on the podcast, but again, not everyone watches the podcast. Not everyone comes to classes that I teach, so I just did a little video on that. So that came up in the YouTube, and I also posted it on Instagram. And then the last one is I use a handy tool for placing a bead on my knitting. And I shared that with my beading classes, but I had never done a video and shared it. So you had 3 videos that came up on my YouTube channel that you were probably unprepared for. You probably didn't know they were coming, and you're probably like, what's this all about? And some of you go over and watch them right away, and that's so nice of you, and give me a little comment. But I did want to just let you know that those are out there. I have a lot of knitting tutorials on my YouTube channel, not as many as some people, because I don't think we need another how to knit continental YouTube video, because there are probably about 3,000 that are already out there. But if I feel like I have something that's a tip or trick that will help people, then I make a video up and put it out there, especially if I'm doing a special technique in one of my patterns. Then, although I finished this, I finished something else, and I did this last Sunday. I purchased this little kit when we were on vacation, and it is Hawthorne Handmade Felt Craft Kit Knitting Basket Brooch. So you get written instructions on what to cut out and what colors you have, and then actually how to do all the parts of it. You get all the pieces of felt that you cut out. You get the pin, and then you get a placement piece, and you get a little book on how to do each of the embroidered stitches. So every embroidered stitch, and here's my little pin. There's my little pin. Didn't it turn out cute? It's mostly punch and pull embroidery. So you're just sticking it in and pulling it out. And then you just wrap some stitches into, make them little yarn balls. You do have felt under all those little yarn balls in there. I just think it turned out so cute. And then they give you a thing to cover the back. I did glue mine. They said to stitch that green on, but by that point I was done stitching. So you have the blue, and then you put a green back on it. And I just think it turned out so cute. I would highly recommend these kits. They have lots of them, and I could make another one because I definitely have enough of the felt left over to make a similar one. You have all these little pieces that you've you've cut out. So you have the patterning. So if you have a little, you know, if you had a little felt at home, you have all those little pieces all ready to go. So I can just put those right back in the box and use them again if I wanted to make one for someone. It would be a really nice gift. And it really did take me 2 football games, if that's any indication. I just sat and cut it out and stitched on it for a couple of football games on a Sunday afternoon, and I had it all done. So it was really fun. I haven't done needlework in a long time, and I love needlepoint. I would love to have the needlepoint shop here in the Twin Cities be closer, because I would go over and stitch. They have open stitching, but you know, just not enough time to do all of the things. Whips. I went over to Churchill's and purchased these Project Hibernating Do Not Disturb little things to hang on my bags. So you know I have a bag tree, and I saw these on Instagram, and I thought, oh, that would be fun to have a couple of these, so I will share them also with some of my friends. But yeah, Project Hibernating, and I have probably 6 bags hanging on my whip tree right now, so I could put a little tag on them and carry that. I just thought that was such a clever, cute little idea. I read the most interesting article in the Minneapolis St. Paul magazine, and this comes in the mail to me, and I did not subscribe, I don't think. So I'm not sure why I get it. Anyway, and I love to look through it. It tells about restaurants and, you know, the best doctors in town and places to visit and different happenings and things that are going on. And this article is called Exploring How Book Bans Are Touching the North Star State and Why They May Go From Here. And this is talking about all of the banning of books. And as a former high school English teacher, I have really strong opinions on, you know, banning books. And so this article was really good. I don't know if you could get this article online. That's a possibility, but it talks about all of the different books that have been banned. But in Minnesota, we had a state law that took effect in August that makes Minnesota one of a handful of states to implement a ban on book bans. So we have no book bans in our state. They cannot ban books. And if you believe in freedom of speech in any way, shape, or form, you do know that that is something that maybe we should all support. But yeah, the article is really good. So if this is something that you would be interested in reading, it's a 2-page article. I would certainly copy it and scan it and send it to you if you're interested. And then I ordered a new book, this long thread. It is Women of Color on Craft, Community, and Connection by Jen Hewitt. I had not purchased this, and I really wanted to support this. I thought it would be a really good something for me to pick up. There are a number of interesting chapters in here about craft, and craft being political, yards and yarns of happiness. There are personal essays in here, handmade past and present. And so I just really wanted to get a copy of this to sit by my chair so that I can pick it up and read different essays going through the holidays here. So I wanted to share that with all of you. What have I been watching? Tons of stuff, because I've been home and I've been knitting, and my husband went out of town for a day, and so I had a whole day and I didn't have to cook or anything. It was just lovely. I watched Quiet on the Set. It is the story of a documentary about the story of child actors on Nickelodeon and how they were treated. Shocking, just absolutely incredible. Then I watched the Lost Children documentary on Netflix, and that was those 3 or 4 kids that were lost in Bogota, Colombia, in the forest. The plane went down and they survived 40 days in the rainforest jungle. And some of these men that go out to try to find them are scared to death. And these 3 children are all alone. One of them is a little girl that's 10 months old, and they survived for 40 days. you know that they get found, but they are almost skeletal when they find them, and the little boy is almost perished. It's just really, really interesting. And that happened in May of 2023. So that's a fairly recent documentary. Then I watched Buy Now, The Shopping Conspiracy. That's all about fast fashion and what we're doing to our planet. Another documentary. And then I had to get away from some sad documentaries, but I watched A Man on the Inside. That's the new Netflix series with Ted Danson. It's so good. He goes undercover at a retirement community because some jewelry has gone missing, and it's quirky and funny. But the characters are so great. There are so many people you'll recognize in this show besides Ted Danson. Yeah, I highly recommend. It's on Netflix. And then I went and watched this documentary on Ashley Madison, which I knew nothing about. And it is a young person's clothing store, and the way the workers, the young girls, were treated. They took them on trips. They made them dress in their clothes in the stores, but if they were overweight at all, or even just not the perfect body image, they would fire them. Fascinating. I mean, to me, watching a documentary and learning something is just, the best education you could get around some of the stuff that you are just completely clueless about. So yeah, I watched a lot of documentaries recently. And then I signed up to watch Cecile Christiansen on the Fiberside Chat, and she did a talk on the Faroe Islands that was so good. Yeah, it was really nice. If you have not signed up for a Fiberside Chat, they're $20. Someone speaks every Sunday. I did it in October. And yeah, you should sign up for the Fiberside Chat newsletter so that you know who's up and coming. They're not maybe always someone that you want to listen to. Like, they have different people on that might be doing weaving or spinning, and that might not be your thing. But I think you can always learn something in that hour, and you're supporting a local yarn store and the Longmart Yarn Shop and the speaker, which for $20 is just, it's awesome. So I wanted to shout her out because she did a really lovely job. Then I got an email from Biscott Yarns. It looks like Biscotti, but I think they say Biscott. And they're the ones that have the new yarn store in New Jersey, and they're self-striping. And I saw them at Yarn Fest in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, and I am subscribed to their newsletter, and they have some free knitting ornament patterns on their website. So you should go over, because I got 2 free ornament patterns. One is a little hat and one is a little stocking, and they were free and they're darling. So go over and check that out on their website. And then if you have not heard or seen, and you're not on Instagram at all, Donate Terrence Williams, who is a crafter in our community, was shot after coming home from the gym in Dallas, Texas. And he is a sewer and a crafter. He does all kinds of online things, and he has a GoFundMe going on because he got shot through the arm and the leg, and he's going to be laid up for a really long time. So if you have $5 to go over, or 10 or 20, but if you, or $2, they're trying to raise some money to help him out because he's going to be unemployed for a long time in recovery. It's just so sad. He happens to be an African-American young man who was literally just going home from the gym, and they have not found the person that shot him yet. And it seems like it was just a random shooting. But that has kind of been going around on Instagram, and I did post it in my stories, but I thought I should share it with all you here, and I will have a link in the show notes down below, or the links are always on Ravelry in my Ravelry group for previous podcasts. And then what have I been reading? Well, several things. I finished Commonwealth by Ann Patchett, which was really interesting. I was confused listening to this book. This is one of those books that would kind of move around between characters and in time. And if you're not paying attention when you first start listening, you can get people a little mixed up. But this is a story of 2 families who live side by side, and There's an affair that happens and it affects the children, and they tell the story of what happened. And these children were not great people. They were bugged a lot by their younger brother, and so when they didn't want to play with him or they didn't want to deal with him, they would give him some medication, some like antihistamine to make him sleep, and he would just fall asleep and sleep for hours, and then the kids could go off and do what they wanted. It really interesting story. The premise is really, you know, a little out there, but the book spans like 5 decades and these 6 children and these 4 parents and how they're kind of intermingled. So if you like that kind of thing, you will love this. And then I got to listen to Jupiter Rising by Gary D. Schmidt. You all know that I loved the book Orbiting Jupiter, which is a young adult novel. It was about 4 hours long that I talked about on the podcast. And then we read for Patreon Book Club, and I've recommended it to the larger book club that I'm in that meets at my church. And he came out with a sequel. And so I was so excited that it came up on my Libby so that I could listen to it. This is the story of Jupiter, who has been born and has been taken in by the family after her father has died. And what happens with the adoption process of that. It's really good. I just highly recommend it. It's a 4-hour audiobook, and it's going to be definitely Orbiting Jupiter is on the top 5 of my books read this year. It haunts you afterwards. And then I read The Frozen River by Ariel Lawton. It is so good. It takes place in the mid to late 1700s, and this man is found in the river, frozen in the river, and they chop him out and they bring him back, and they're trying to figure out who would have killed him because he looks like he had been hanged. But the midwife who takes care of all of the women and babies in town is asked to examine the body and kind of take care of things. So you follow her through this whole story. She and her husband have a number of grown children and couples still at home, and she goes out and delivers babies in the community all the time. And then this new doctor moves to town and doesn't believe in midwifery and doesn't give her much respect. And then one of her sons is in trouble as part of this case. And so, yeah, it was really good. I think it came recommended on Instagram as a book that everyone should read this year. And I'm saying this was top notch. Probably the best of the 3 this week. I just really, really enjoyed it. Okay, we had a giveaway last time, and I had given away the Knitting Without Tears book, as well as the 2 skeins of yarn and the stitch marker keeper, and that goes to Patreon member Chris, and that is Chris Smith 81014 is part of your email. And so Chris, you won the 2 skeins and the Elizabeth Zimmerman book. So please get in touch. I don't have your address. I don't have access to your address on the Patreon, so I can email you if I don't hear from you. And I did not hear from last week's winner. And so it's too far away, but I think it was Joan. And she was at Knit Night, and I mentioned that she needed to watch the podcast, but I bet she hasn't watched it yet. So yeah, she needs to get in touch too so that I can get that in the mail. Maybe I'll just send her an email. This week's giveaway, I have 3 skeins of Lana Gatto yarn in Super Soft. These are 3 50-gram skeins of extra fine virgin merino wool. And there are about 125 meters on each skein. So it's going to be right in that sport to DK weight. And yeah, I have that to give away. Then I have another piece of broken tape measure that I'm just sharing with people because when they break, I cut them up and I have a little bag of them. And it's kind of nice to cut these up, and even to put like a 6-inch piece in your wallet is a great little tip. Right? And just to take a piece, because you never know when you're going to be out and about and you have to measure something. And I have a couple of the orange toggles to stop your needle. and then the last little plastic stitch marker case. So for next time, let's all share something that we're thankful for on the podcast, because I do think we have much to be thankful for, even in times of distress and stress. We all have things that we can be careful for, right? Be thankful for. Yeah. So that's all I have for you this week. Thank you so much for joining me. Thank you for staying a Patreon member. I can't even express how much my heart has grown since starting that. It is just, and it has been so nice to get to know some of you personally through book club and knit night. Like, I know where some of you live now, and I know that you have kids, and where you work or how you're working, because you're just sharing some stuff with me, and that's so nice than just talking to an iPad. So I want to thank you all for all of that. I will see you in 2 weeks with all kinds of wedding talk, I'm sure. And come in for a big hug. And until next time, keep it colorful.